lot like you or just a
Well,
little?
no, but
No.
we're different twins.
Oh, so like a lot.
Yeah. Like,
They look similar, just not extremely. No.
I think
I wouldn't guess they were twins, but I would easily know they were sisters.
Caleb looks more like you.
Mike, June. Yeah, Aiden. Mike, take that.
That was her.
Oh. Look at that. Great.
Ah.
I like this room.
Hey, Zoe.
Switch it
One
again.
more on deck.
I looked in the Legos.
So I thought.
Freaking, literally, Walmart has better Legos than the Lego store. Walmart has better Legos.
Wait, me. What? Oh. Yeah, that place is like vintage Legos.
Walmart literally has better Legos than Legos. So it's like
Did they have any of the
Those
old
are on
ones?
these.
yeah.
Everyone?
I don't know, they had the Lotus one. Yeah.
Like, what's your next?
No, then there was this one that was like $100, and I was like, I keep forgetting where I am.
That's like a little part-time. We start with 20 minutes and just do whatever.
But,
Dude,
Walmart's Lego has really good Legos.
Oh, we have this sort of plastic in it, so that it has this glow.
My son. That's why they're expensive.
My life is
And
really
then off eBay, you can find it for $5.
We've been there for a few different functions.
Dang it.
Okay.
No.
Go get mine.
It is always.
Other one.
Yeah.
We were talking about your brother. That was scary.
That was my bad.
That was scary. I'm so
Maggie, stop
bad.
pinching people.
It's not my fault. I had a routine.
We were just talking about your
Alan
brother.
and Mike against each other, they just start whipping each other. Like,
He
they
was big. I had
They
no
walk up and I'm like, hey.
Is that your
Yeah, I love you.
He's like, Alan, I love you. Alan, don't leave me. And then he went.
I love you so much.
And the entire tour was like,
Wait, does he get something from the snack bar from winning? You always say we get something from the snack bar from winning.
Wait, what was that?
Yeah, I'm a high
but
Yeah, why are you still up here? It's very nice.
I'm waiting for James.
I guess that's partly why.
He said I don't do it.
So she was like, what does that mean? It's like,
There it is.
We were just talking about you. Oh, my leg just like started rubbing. Wait, where's Maya?
Do some work.
Yeah, literally everyone's here.
I had a sleepover right now. I know. Here's the problem. Oh, wait, I had a sleepover like a while ago for a birthday party. And I always went to Christmas with Boston, and I got a mustache and a new brow thrown on me with eyeliner. No way.
I'll admit it.
And that sucked. And so I was like plotting revenge, and I wasn't gonna fall asleep. And so I started watching the sleepover. And I was very
No, she's actually a total stranger.
and so then I was like
She's actually
not being able to sleep.
so
And
weird.
then I was like, tired, my brain is okay, well, I'm gonna go to the brain. She was surprised. Yeah, I told lucky, like crazy.
Or slapjack.
Or slapjack, that's kind of brainy though.
Kind of.
Victoria to be here.
Lulu is actually pretty good at slapjack. Cause she
I just threw away foil.
like every time we scare her, she throws a punch. So she actually hits you. It's not as funny.
And I was so bad.
Probably.
Trying so hard. It was just so better. Slapjack. And I had it over my nose, and I'm having my ears like they were really bad. But it was just like,
If I wasn't fully
I
cognizant,
left it that way, but I laughed laughing so hard because it was in front of these people. I was laughing.
every set of twins has
I felt bad because it was like, I messed it up.
and if you do spend time with them, there's always something. But yeah, I would have to spend some time with you to notice the differences and then be able to assess how you are compared to other twins. So I grew up with a best friend.
so tired and you're also like really hurt. I'm like, yeah, that was hard. I've been sick for like 3 weeks. That's fine. Yeah, it's so shit how crazy it
And now they've got like.
Look at all those chickens.
They go, yeah.
Look at all those chickens.
Yeah. You guys.
Cut us out.
You know what? I don't even want to have them. Yeah. It's like that. This is like something like that. Stay out there, stop.
We don't like those
We all
types.
know people only wanna go to weddings so they can talk.
I know.
So they can talk to each other.
It's always
Dude, I don't know why everyone likes her, but I know she's like the best.
Oh, no, this is just KJ.
And then they'd all be up here
You can finish, get your shoes on, and you go.
But I can't do that. Julie would get mad.
That's fine, you ready to go?
all about waffles.
Good. Emma, can you get ready to go?
Where'd you guys go to?
We're gonna
Yeah.
burger.
So you're gonna say either sixes or any, or any if they all.
How will you that?
No, you're not going to day one. Tell her not. They have like crazy.
Should be studying together.
Petting zoo, and then like.
Okay, is anyone gonna want more smoothie before they go to class?
I really doubt my ability to class and cool down. I feel like
What?
Wait. They do.
Remember in junior high, the leprechaun frog?
No, just because it's like unsaid. Do you love that? Yeah.
So what are you gonna do with this? I did it.
He asked me if I liked her. And I was like, she looks like a leprechaun.
That was his way of saying yes.
It can only be one or other. I'm in front.
So it's set like 50 times. Well, look at that, you get to go 4 or 5 times. That's awesome.
So I had like friends there before I even went there. So that was pretty nice.
She'd love it.
I love blue too.
Make noises. That's about killing.
What is that?
It's an airplane.
Oh, it's like we can get these in like several ways to turn. This is the controller. They're trims and reversals. It's a generic remote. It works with like and so like some parts steering is backwards motor, so you can flip the steering on this. And then every trigger, it's just sending pulses.
Throw that apple.
Yeah, they were way.
Where's the top part?
I lost it.
Okay. What kind?
Is there a way to cut out the track and then the back to make it?
You just have to swap the tires.
Yeah, just take the
Your
tire.
daughter's like.
Put on slicks. Yeah, these have been used outside enough, they're almost slick on the back.
We're not.
If you actually, I take that back, if you put it on tarmac, like actual smooth blacktop, it will do skid turns.
Yeah.
You just have to pulse the throttle,
It's only on the
and it will slip.
Yeah, and then turn the
and then you just hang onto it, and you can do some slide.
And it's just.
I don't understand why it's
Yeah.
wrong.
Well, I had the throttle turned down in here. I was only at 75% max.
Nice.
Yeah, so you can go 50%, 75%, or 100%. Not right now. I just want to make sure it works still, because it was in my garage long enough. The battery was like solid, 100% dead, just completely dead.
So like, this is
So I brought it
bad.
here
This
and
is
charged
bad.
it for
Don't ever do
and then
this.
tried to play with it.
And this is how you do it.
Flipped it in less than
I don't think I like you.
I'm excited to see my dad.
This is not gonna be a great dad.
Teaching your children it's the chair line.
Why not?
The chair
You know what
line.
a chair line does?
The chair line. Do they eat chairs?
Nope. They
Oh,
do
just
this.
climbing on them? Okay, that's good. Where you were gonna eat the chair though? That's way too big.
And I never even said slave training. All I did was say.
But this is how.
Oh, now you gotta sit here and wait for the next one.
I never said that exactly.
Oh, really?
I specified.
That's the beginning.
Everyone agrees you did say that.
I specified first.
All right, children who are not my slaves, time to go. Also, Jane
Does that mean you just called everyone here except Jaden and me?
You were that clown pirate. I know you know Matthew Rose.
Oh, you put chairs all the way down. Of chairs.
Girls, let's go!
Look, do you see her?
Are you leaving us here?
Then there's your answer.
Don't worry, you look beautiful too.
You wanted the drink, you're gonna drink it in class. I will return.
Alright, wait.
Hannah, you are in charge for the moment. I gotta check my kiddos in.
Oh, should I reenact?
You could be too.
Ansel,
No, you don't have to.
Can I have a
Not a 50-year-old man.
I like
I'm just saying. Yes, you are.
Whenever you say that we're not
She
allowed
bought
to
it with her own money.
it makes me wanna have.
Hey, Logan.
We don't have any of the clone marks.
Logan, can I free
Logan,
know if we
I
can
have a
get
free snack
free.
because I went to camp with you.
He's not doing free snacks, guys.
Could I have a free snack because Alan's being a jerk to me right now?
What's up?
Can I have free snack?
I'll get free snacks if you swallow this whole thing.
Sure. Let's do it.
Is it we're supposed to put down cards that
That'll
have
be
the
salt
same?
inside, like the bottom.
We like salt.
I can do that if I really.
Yes, I totally did the whole salt shaker twice. The entire salt shaker and the salt. Yes, it last tastes good. Love it feeling like no, it's actually good. It's like when emo people try to cut their wrist. And like, oh, it's like amazing. Well, I mean, my mom had to do with down. I'm getting deep down.
Yeah.
What? Not we could all say kindergarten again. Kindergarten. Oh my. Oh, I was trying to eat.
No, they went down with the
I remember PBS one year. My great grandma taught it. I was in one of the classes. Yeah, I remember.
I'll make your potatoes.
I would make my mashed potatoes. No, I'm trying to.
So you're all three of them.
It's so easy.
No,
No, we're all getting graded.
Okay,
Get
insurance.
my money,
sure.
I feel like
Get my money.
So I'd be
Pick on all of them.
Did you bet anything?
Start selling people.
I was like, no, I'm not going to.
Everyone. You know what?
Wait, same color and
I
So
know.
it either has to be a diamond or a nine.
I think it would only be Michael.
Dude, listen up,
Or
bud.
a what?
Listen up,
No, we
bud.
should come back.
Get out of
Daniel comes in. Comes back in. We should just have me the thing and then just auction it.
Yeah, we're like, yeah, this is for today, it's fine. Or when Daniel walked in.
Crazy, whatever, same thing.
Oh, you guys.
I'll do 17.
Hey, yo.
I like how this little thing
Hey, now run slick.
Oh, it's actually kind of cool.
Oh, did you hit destroy on me if I could sway to your daddy?
What?
They only want to be.
It was only like half a second.
friend. I came back. I literally, he tied her up.
I think
So
you
I gave
already
him
did.
my
you know?
croissant half and I took her and then I untied her and put her back.
Wait, I only have 3 more days in my fast.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I know.
That's nothing.
I did that like 5 days ago.
I only have 3.
Wow.
I'm on a fast. I've been on a fast for a month. I
Wait,
only
what's
have
your
3 days.
I
don't know. My dad told us to do a fast.
Yeah, what you have to do after a fast is you have to do
Wait,
it for 24 hours. Like,
We're faster than video games.
You play on your phone? No.
And then shit.
breathing.
You play on your Switch? I don't have an actual you get it. You get it.
It depends on which one. Sandwiches are one.
So I get screaming like.
I know everyone said you're so.
Let's have the ice cream shit. 2 of them.
It's nothing to you.
No, he did not.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. Well,
Oh yes, I do have.
But everyone's drumsticks are food.
I don't know. It depends on how much it costs. But
how do you want me to respond when you say,
Like the multi-ticket,
I played
the
Fortnite with
multi-ticket.
you and she's really loud? How am I supposed to respond? Because whenever I get him, he shoved his mic in his mouth and started screaming. He's more chaotic than me. It's like, "Ah!" And they start singing randomly. And then one time when I first got my headset, I didn't know how to turn off the chat. The chat, and I didn't know I had it on. And then I was talking to the cat, but her name was Pickle. And this guy randomly
My
was like,
cat.
whose name? And I like said it because I didn't know how to turn off the headset thing.
Were you happy when Leia came up?
And I was like so scared.
That's
So
Kieran when I
just,
first played No Man's Sky. A guy like flew onto the planet I was, and I just hear him talking in chat. I'm like,
that also happened on the website because I didn't know how to turn it off.
oh,
And
yeah,
I
I
was
had to
like,
ask him all
I
the
know
thing. How do you turn this off? He's like, I have no idea. I
this
downloaded
British
it.
kid was talking to me and he was like, Alex, come over here. Like, yeah,
Is that what most people sound like?
Wait, yeah. Then he was like talking to his brother Alex, and I was just like,
I got 7 kills and he got 1.
Okay, can you stop talking about Fortnite?
Only 7?
Because I can't play
Or
Fortnite.
You got 7 kills.
That's not
You
bad.
know what? You can yell at me.
Hey,
I get 30.
I don't care, bud.
I'm gonna go look for
yeah,
nails.
she can guess it, yeah.
Not? Or, I'm gonna go look for nails. The ginger?
Oh.
No,
Ginger.
Doc.
Oh.
Ginger.
Yeah, I get it.
J-I-N-J.
I have Daniel Nog as my teacher. I mean, not.
Yeah,
I mean, Dad as my teacher. You know what I get on God? That was so much. Okay. Everybody's good. I knew what I was doing on the excellence. I made it really good. I'm proud. All that cheating. All that.
And Mike.
Examples paid off.
My favorite subject.
Wait, Micah, how does your fast break? Because literally,
I have baking socks somewhere.
Everyone
online. We weren't online. It just says that.
So you do what I do and you just leave it on all night.
Wait, yeah, maybe you just
I didn't see you walk in.
Like,
Good morning.
She said I was online.
I also.
11.
She is the easiest one.
Suck it. My life is so hard. Snoopy do 11 something.
Did you know? Did you know an avocados are berries? Yeah, they are. They are. Yeah, they are. We have to do a little and then it's his. It's certified as a berry.
Yeah, you can just ask your
Scooby Doo, the Dawn.
Alex did an hour.
Well, that's true, but like.
My brother.
Which brother?
My brother.
Avocado has a huge ball.
He said, his word I used to him is, Scooby.
I didn't see him.
And then he was like, Michael, what do you want? He made my account. So he was like, Michael,
I
what
thought
do you want?
banana.
Account name.
I
I don't know, you can make it.
When the banana was a berry. But I realized not.
Tell Dad how to spell.
Oh my goodness. You know what? Yesterday was so sad for me. I had my son yesterday and I didn't go. Like I could not because I just find out.
I woke up one day and thought about it. Where I said Spain.
My team has lost all 3 games. 0-5, 0-8, 0-7. Our literal court soccer team is so bad, and the worst part is, what are their coaches? It's my coaches! They have it on
Yeah, no, in the kitchen.
That shouldn't be like. You got a gaping hole in the tiny hole, and the tiny hole take one shot. So there's a click valve in there.
Him and Daniel when they're like, him and Daniel together, and then when there's Keegan, Keegan wasn't there.
And so, because
I see Daniel, Hunter, and
Anthony bought it
Axel
with
all
like,
playing.
what was it, like 500 building
I played how they act. I played Fortnite 3 times and I got nice. Hey, mommy!
Yeah?
Let's go.
Yeah.
I'm starting a rebellion.
I think it's actually just starts.
I don't think presidents know it's like hard.
Since the baby.
Wait, everybody has that way? What?
You go by yourself.
Oh my god. What is the cacophony? I know. I was like,
Friday the 13th? No. I think it's like the 5th of the 9th.
Remember Bubbles?
I remember Bubbles.
Do you remember
I had a
Bubbles?
leopard gecko named Bubbles and she died and got all scared.
Well, we just gotta let down the pool. I was part of the. I was
Michael lessons right now.
Yeah, it's April 5th.
Boy camp.
I was part of the
Boys camp.
crew. And then they picked me out and I met his brother.
All the worst songs are hard rock.
We had a wet, really bubble battle.
No, boot camp, boot camp.
Yes! Oh man, that'd be amazing. I get so many older guys to come help. They would do so good. Every morning you wake up and you're screaming Bible verses.
Get my dad.
Roadside jerkers, maggot! It is. We need to actually get started. Alright guys, time to grab a Bible and a seat!
I want a chicken nugget. No, you weren't a part of it. You were. It was like years before you started coming. It was when I was in 5th grade. I made the chicken nuggets with me, Alan, and Micah.
Hey, mommy.
It was the chicken nuggets. No, I'm not. I thought these were Neo.
dead serious. I thought they were. No, they're just clean.
We got brandy Bibles, Victoria.
Actually,
I'm getting you
Cow. Cow.
You have to.
okay, that's it. Ah, my bum.
You're welcome.
No, we don't. Micah, go to class. Anyway.
Micah.
Daniel, are you gonna end 15 minutes early like last time? Please, Daniel. Please.
Daniel, you should make it 3 hours just because.
Shut
of
your
that.
mouth.
You should be enjoying it.
I am enjoying. It's just
Then why wake up?
I just don't want to learn about metal right now.
Why is the Lonzo up here?
Metal ball.
30.
Why are you here?
Micah, go to class.
Oh, come on, Micah. Micah.
Micah's balding.
Micah's balding.
Now,
Mike,
fast
you're not
forward.
balding, Micah. Your hair looks fine.
Micah, your hair looks great.
Wait, let me see this. Your
Micah,
fast- you have to
Micah's
use
in your
sign
hair.
language. Mine-
Gold digger.
The Daniel edit is getting to me.
Stop looking at the Daniel edit. That's kind of disturbing, not gonna lie.
Because like the audio is so funny.
Wait.
No, but like he's just like teenage kid who's just looking at Daniel edits. So weird.
See? Oh, he's so good.
You little.
That's so
Hey, Victoria, you should put your phone in the bucket.
That's
Victoria, you don't get to look at Daniel knock during the study. I'm sorry.
I'm never on my phone though. I never win. What's the
You
point?
can't. You don't put your phone in the bucket.
I think
He's got a point there.
How would she win?
Probably why you don't.
But my phone has Kira on it.
okay. And
I better win. Alan's phone better not win. It better be me.
has to be on
Or else that bucket is sexist.
Alan stole
I don't care.
thousands of
That's
dollars.
not how that works.
I don't care.
Thousands.
Alan's probably giving me a look right now. And I don't care.
$1,000.
I'm on strike right now.
I don't care.
I spent at least $1,000 here.
Alrighty, we are in 2nd Chronicles. We're doing 2 chapters today, but they're both pretty short.
Are we gonna end
This is one of the few good kings. We've been going through.
Oh, he just told you off.
That's not how it works.
True.
Micah
And
is
also,
the
yeah, so we're in 2nd Chronicles. 14 and 15 is one of the few good kings. This is King Asa. If you guys have ever met someone named Asa, they probably have Bible reading parents because it's not like a super popular name. But in the like string of bad kings, there's only a few good ones. Asa is one of them. Asa is an interesting character. He starts out ruling alongside the last king we had, which was Abijah. Abijah, sometimes in some translations Abijam, but he did like the one good thing and then the rest was not good. You guys remember what he did good? He was.
I can't
was
physically
right.
remember right now.
You went up
Free health care.
Did we talk about that guy?
We did last week. It
I
was
wasn't
just
here
last week.
I really don't remember. I wasn't. I don't remember it.
Yeah, you weren't here. All right, so he goes up to his countrymen, who they've been at war, they've been fighting. The country's split in half. It's like a giant civil war that lasts for multiple kings, multiple generations. He goes up there and he just says, "Guys, you've forsaken God. The priests left you. You haven't been worshiping at the temple. You've been worshiping fake golden calf things that you call God, and you've been worshiping gods from other countries. And this is all wrong. And if you fight us, we've been worshiping the real God. You're going to lose." And not because we're a bigger army, we're not. Not because we're stronger, we're not. It's because God's on our side because we've been worshiping Him. So he makes this stand and he says, right here, right now, you guys can just quit this whole war and come worship God and we'll just call it all good. And they don't take him up on the offer. They send like half their forces around back to surround him. But he stood up and he said what was true. And that was like the one good thing. He didn't do very well besides that, but he did do that one thing. Now Asa, his son, he ends up overlapping his reign with Abijah for 11 years. This is going to be a theme. Almost every king in the south, these are the prophets, sorry, I don't know why I left that slide in. We don't need the prophets today. We'll get there eventually, but not quite. Almost every king in the south is overlapped by some measure with some other king. They all have these overlapping reigns. And it's all, father, son, father, son. Occasionally it'll leap over to like a nephew once in a while. But it's usually father, son, father, son. And so these guys are usually overlapping in their reigns. Now it's for different reasons every time. One time it's because someone's sick. One time it's because he's such a bad king everyone chases him out of town. There's all these different reasons where the king didn't quite leave the throne. He didn't quite give up being king. But his son comes in and is basically ruling now. And this happens with Asa. And this is for an interesting reason. We'll see here in a second. But basically, Abijah got his 3 years where he was the king, and then for 11 years he was king. Does that make sense? Yeah?
Alright, so for the color coding,
Oh yeah, it's good, bad, and ugly.
Wow.
Solomon's bad?
Solomon is bad. Yeah.
Really?
On the whole, and definitely by the finish line.
Get out of here.
What?
He doesn't
Wait,
understand the
what
Bible.
is
I'm
each
out.
color?
Solomon
So
is bad.
good,
Yes.
good, 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 bad, 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 ugly.
Wait, what was the really dark red one in between the two red ones? So what about?
So that's actually just an artifact. Sorry about that. Yeah. So if you look at the boxes, you'll see it's kind of light red than dark red. The edge has 1 pixel of dark red. Can you tell? It's barely there. Some of the boxes are so small there's no fill. It's only the edge pixel. That's the whole box. So just the fact that the boxes are drawn as dark red borders means a tiny box looks dark red. He's not any worse. He's just shorter. Which maybe is a good thing to measure how bad he is. God kicked him out after like 3 months. You know, he didn't even get a whole year. Yeah.
How come we don't have any, like, no more worship? Like, I want worship, but I don't want to do it. I don't want to
This
do
is
it.
the formula. You ready? Here's the formula.
No last time.
Do you want Daniel to lead worship?
Yes!
We should
That
get
would be a
Shane.
bad idea.
We should get Shane and get some high schoolers. Get some high schoolers to do worship.
So I'm totally open to that. Totally open to that.
No,
Because that means Maya would be here.
I love Maya. I love Maya.
You can take her.
Okay.
Hey, yo.
I will. I will proudly take
Oh my
her.
gosh.
That's
You know,
love Maya.
actually, I can sympathize. Like being someone who grew up with sisters and just having siblings in the house. It was like a normal thing. It was nice, and I
You can
had
take
friends
a
who
lot,
didn't
yeah.
have siblings, and they
Here doesn't
they wished they had siblings. For all of us who have siblings, you don't know what good thing you have in your life until you go hang out with someone who has 0 siblings.
Will you call
Yeah,
me
I
out?
don't my siblings.
Like, I want a worship team, but I don't want to do the worship.
Say that one more time.
I'm just a girl in my dance group who doesn't care.
Maybe she just has a bunch of friends. That's fine.
Priya.
Alabama, country mama. My bad. He told me to.
Sorry, no more noise.
Team.
All right, so these are our list of kings. Oh, did you die really just then? Emily, can I have some triple A's?
Triple A, Phantom Tax.
2. Maybe that's why the mousy bit was
Wait,
turning
Daniel,
on.
what's Phantom Tax?
What?
What is Phantom Tax?
Like, I know the definitions of the word. I don't get how reference though.
What's Phantom Tax? Like, what's the? Maybe Emily knows. Emily, do you know what's Phantom Tax?
Oh my god.
Say you didn't
Why
know what
this?
it was.
What is it?
Okay, do you not know what Phantom Tax?
That's
Are
dumb.
you kidding me?
Is it like bad?
No.
All
Okay,
right, I'm gonna hit
I
next.
feel like if you describe it to me, I probably know what it
okay,
is.
go on YouTube.
No.
Type in Kaisadat Phantom Tax. And
How
you'll
about
see what it
Cornell
is.
Phantom?
Phantom. It's easier if you see what it
you're not
is.
can't say it
I
It's
googled it
appropriate.
You're not
literally.
Okay, so there's a
Is it
streamer.
inappropriate? I know.
No, it's not.
Wait, is it that streamer?
It,
That
That's what it is, right?
Hold on. Shut up. It's Kaisadat.
We can explain this later.
Yeah, we have all the time in the world later.
Wait, Alan. Wait. Cool. Okay, now we're gonna read that. All right. 2 Chronicles chapter 14, starting in verse 1. When Abijah died, he was buried in the city of David, and then his son Asa became the next king. There was peace in the land for 10 years. Asa did what was pleasing and good in the sight of the Lord his God. Now, it's not generic, it's going to tell you what it is, but before we read it, pause. What do you think that is?
What do you mean what?
It says that Asa did what was pleasing in the sight of the Lord. Pleasing and good in the sight of the Lord. So what would that be? Give me some examples for a king over a
Worshiping
country.
God.
Worship God? What else?
Not having too many wives.
Not having too many
Having
wives.
one wife.
Good guess. Good guess. Sorry, what was that?
One wife, 0
Skibbity?
concubines.
Like
Skibbity
scat?
toilet.
Like,
Oh, very nice. Yeah.
Phantom.
Yeah, probably not. Anyone
I don't
else?
think so.
No? Nothing?
I think mine was better.
All right.
Hey.
Here's a little hint. Does anyone know what the last kings did that was wrong? Started with wives, ended with.
700 wives.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. No. Started with wives, moved to something else from the wives.
Other
What was it?
gods.
Other gods.
You did it,
So,
Micah.
what would a king who's pleasing God do?
One God.
Sorry, one at a time. Yeah.
Down God's.
Take down the other gods' idols. Take down. This is critical. Not just come into office as like the next president and say, I'm going to make a few better decisions than the last guy. But you come into office and you go, the last guy was a dummy, and I'm going to undo all the dumb things he did.
But it's the exact opposite of Trump and Biden.
You should become president.
I'm not talking about real presidents. I'm talking about hypothetical because this is kings from a few thousand years ago.
President Day is coming up.
It happened though.
So there's a difference between saying I'm going to do one or two good things and saying I'm going to look for the evils that have been committed so far and I'm going to put a stop to them. I'm going to end those evils. That is an especially good thing for a leader. It's not everyone's job. You each have different responsibilities in life. You each have different things where you actually have sway over that small part of the world. You have control over that little tiny area. But when there's a president or a king, some kind of ruler or governor, they have control over a huge amount of stuff. And if they don't look for evil actively and then punish it, stamp it out, get rid of it, they're not doing their job. They have to actually do that. They can't just look for a few good things to do. People love a few good things. Hand out some free food to people, lower taxes, do the stuff that people like. That doesn't make you good.
Lower gas prices.
If you're in a position of leadership, you actually have to look for the bad stuff actively and then get rid of it. Find ways to get rid of it. So here's what we read next. Verse 4. He commanded the people of Judah to seek... Oh no, sorry, I skipped verse 3. Verse 3. He removed the foreign altars and the pagan shrines. He smashed the sacred pillars and cut down the Asherah poles. He commanded the people of Judah to seek the Lord, the God of their ancestors, and to obey his law and his commands. Asa also removed the pagan shrines as well as the incense altars from every one of Judah's towns. So this was a thing that wasn't mentioned in detail in Chronicles, but slowly people got tired of traveling at all. Originally, God said, hey, we're going to have one spot where you can come worship me. I want you to sacrifice just to get there. Just to travel there was sacrifice. And then you were supposed to make a sacrifice. Like, actually have a spare, perfect-looking animal to give to God once you arrived. People had these Asherah poles and, sacred groves they could go to and worship all these fake gods, but they still had to travel to those. They weren't everywhere. There's only a few of them. And they got tired of that. They were getting lazier and lazier and lazier because worship is meant to be sacrifice. Sacrifice is not an easy thing. It is inherently a difficult thing. That's part of the definition of the word. And so often we think of worship as just singing. That's all it is. It's singing. And if we like to sing, then it's not even a sacrifice. Right? Like maybe if you don't like to sing, then you can mentally make yourself think, yes, I'm sacrificing because I don't like to sing. But if you like to sing, it's not even that. Worship was always meant to be a sacrifice, though. You're meant to be giving something up as you worship God. And so if the, fake gods are too far away, then what do? The real God's really far away. I hate going all the way to Jerusalem, the big capital. It's all busy and loud. Ugh. Well, you just start sticking idols and altars in every single town. It doesn't say city, it says town. Think about that. Every little spot, there's another fake God spot where you can go worship. Now you don't have to go to the nearest Asherah pole. Now you don't have to go all the way to Jerusalem. You just wake up in the morning, walk out of your house, and go worship a fake God. Easy peasy. Originally when they invented movies, you had to go to a movie theater. There wasn't a TV. They didn't have TVs.
Yeah.
The original TV invention, when someone was trying to invent televisions, they were mechanical. They actually had moving parts inside, a wheel that would spin around. And there was no sound, so it didn't really matter that the TV was horribly loud to turn on. And no one bought them. They were a horrible, horrible failure. No one bought them. But it was literally spinning a giant wheel on the inside to shoot the light through and get it to land in the right spot on the front.
Doesn't they do that in drive-ins?
Different kind of wheel for a totally different purpose. I'm talking about like a fan blade spinning so fast it would chop your fingers off. and then you shoot a light through the fan blade. Like that's the original TV. So no one bought that. So if you wanted to watch a movie, you went to a movie theater. You had to physically go to a place. But that was considered a huge convenience. Because previous to that, if you wanted to see a grand speech, if you wanted to see, something happening in politics, you had to go to the Capitol. Think about that.
And that's like thousands.
Now, if you want to see what's happening in Washington, D.C., we have an entire boring TV channel that almost no one watches that's devoted to like 24/7 content of what's happening in the halls of Congress. You can turn on C-SPAN and just watch inside Congress at any time. And it's so boring that like almost no one watches it. And previously, if you wanted to go see that stuff, you would have to, I was about to say get in your car. This is pre-cars for most people. You'd have to get your horse hooked up to your buggy or something, or get a saddle out, and then gather supplies to be able to make the weeks-long journey, and then get there, and then they're like, yes, you can come into the viewing gallery. Yeah, it took me 2 weeks to get here. I hope I didn't miss the day I was supposed to listen in. Right? And then you can find out what happens in Congress, and then you'll go back to your town and you'll tell them, hey guys, I went to Congress and they were talking about this stuff. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. No one here knew that, because there's no way anyone here could have known that yet. Isn't that weird? Then they invented movie theaters. And they could literally put up Congress. They could put up the latest political happenings in the movie theaters. People would go there, and there was actual showings of what we would think of as like the nightly news in a movie theater. Because how else were you going to find that out? Maybe in a newspaper? But you certainly couldn't see the guy giving the speech in a newspaper, right?
In Harry Potter, you could.
Yeah, it's not Harry Potter. They don't let the Muggles have that tech. Come on.
Oh yeah, Muggles. Non-murderers.
So there's this procession of it keeps getting more and more convenient. It keeps getting more and more convenient. It keeps getting more and more convenient. But now there's a question I have, which is, how many people today have ever met the person who sits in Congress and represents them? Does that make sense? Like, do you guys know who represents you in Congress right now?
Wait, there's somebody representing me.
You don't even know who it is. You get my meaning? So now you can turn on the TV, you could pull out your phone and go on YouTube, and you could watch anything happening in Congress, but as a consequence, you've never met the guy. What? Once upon a time, the person who went off to Washington, D.C., that you would have to travel 2 weeks to watch him work, he would come around to your town and talk to you. And that was normal. The politicians that would go there knew you.
That's scary.
Think about that.
I don't like that.
And follow me on this. When you voted for him, it's because you probably already knew him before you voted for him. Like, does that make sense?
So there's a random person in Congress that knows, like, let's say me or like Micah.
Yeah. That would have been the old system. And then when he's in there voting for stuff or getting up and giving speeches to all the other congressmen or all the other senators, whatever.
Vote for me.
He would be speaking on behalf of you, having spoken to you first. So he would not be speaking out of what he wants or what someone paid him to say. He'd be speaking out of what you wanted. So this is the difference. If you go all the way to the temple and you're right there with the priest, you have direct connection with God, but you actually have to get off your duff and go all the way there, and you get that direct connection. So you sacrifice, but the payoff is huge. The payoff is huge. When they first set up the Asherah poles and they set up all the little altars around Judah, and there was just a few of them here and there scattered, there was an interesting effect that they got out of that was some of the good that they had from the temple. It's not good that they were going and worshiping there, don't get me wrong, but they personally received something that they would have got if they'd gone to the temple, which was community. You're getting up out of your town and you're going to a place where people from other towns are going. And so you're getting to actually meet up with people from other towns. So when you would have to go to the movie theater to watch the news, you had this odd little knock-on effect. You didn't meet your senator, you didn't meet your congressman, but you saw other people who were watching the news with you. You were watching the news collaboratively. You were watching the news with other people from your town.
Wait, was
Isn't that interesting?
So
it's a weird experience. We don't have that experience anymore.
To watch
Okay?
the news.
So when they would go worship at these bad altars for fake gods, they had one little upside. They actually got to see other people from Judah around the countryside, all in one place. And they said, we're too lazy for that. So they made the altars in their own towns. And then they never saw each other. They never connected with priests. They never bumped into someone who could go talk to God for them. They never actually made a sacrifice. So they never met the big guy. They never met any of their fellow countrymen. They lost all of the upsides, but they got maximum convenience.
Which was not worth it.
Maximum.
That's the question you have to ask yourself. Is the phone, is the screen, is the digital versus the personal? Is the quick, the easy, is it worth it? Do you even know what you're losing? Do you even know what's being taken away from you? You feel like something's being given to you. I finally got a new phone. I finally got a new tablet. I finally got a new computer. I finally got a new console. Like, you feel as though something's been given to you, but something is also being taken from you. Every game is online now. Well, you never have to invite anyone over to play.
Board games. I know Monopoly's not mobile.
I gotta tell you, I've played a lot of online games that were fun, but like the best fun I've ever had with any game is always when there's four of us holding
Super
four controllers in
Nintendo.
front of one screen. Do you know what I mean?
But you can't play
When you can lean over and shoulder the guy who just killed you, like that's just so much better.
You can't play.
It's just so much better.
You can't play Fortnite in real life.
Okay, if I could actually talk to my congressman after he gave whatever speech, I would be elated. That I could just tell him, this is what I thought of what you said. Here's the good, here's the bad. You know, here's what I liked, here's what I didn't like. You know, you should go talk to some more people about this. I don't think you really understand where our area is coming from and what we think. I think you misstepped a little. As it is, he'll never know. He'll just never know. But then likewise for worship of God, I think this is all the more important. If worship of God becomes this thing that other people do, and yeah, I go to a church, and then you've lost all of the benefits. Something's been stolen from you. It's really sad. And I don't think you should have to wait till you come to church to worship God. I don't think you should have to wait till you guys are here to be worshiping. That'd be stupid, because Jesus died so you could have a direct connection with the Father. Direct. One-to-one. You and him. And he died to achieve that. So if you waited for someone else to lead you into worship, if you waited for some time to go and worship, that's dumb. That someone died to get you out of that situation. Don't put yourself back into it. Asa tries to correct all this. He commands them, get down to the temple. Follow God's commands. Go and actually meet up with him. And then he puts his money where his mouth is, and he finds all the places he can where people are worshiping other things, and he just destroys them. As a consequence, I don't know if you guys caught it on the timeline, he was one of the longest reigning kings. Look at his reign. It's longer than David. Are you getting this? Asa just wins. He takes over for Abijah for like 11 years when Abijah's not even dead yet. Because he's just a better king.
He's just simply better.
He's just better.
Who's this guy? He seems to be very.
Not again.
Who's this guy?
It's the
Up the mouse.
Alright.
guy.
Still there. Oh, no, never mind.
No, I shut up. Okay. I don't know. I didn't buy a new one. They're not even that expensive. They're like made in China. I should just get a new one.
Everything is made in
That's a, well,
Everyone
most
is.
That was made in China.
Live.
Some of my plumbing is made in China.
And the husband.
Alright,
Life is made in China.
not a
I was made in a hospital.
Okay, check out the consequences of this. Okay, the consequences are pretty amazing. So Asa's kingdom enjoyed a period of peace. Verse 6, during those peaceful years, he was able to build up the fortified towns throughout Judah. No one tried to make war against him at this time, for the Lord was giving him rest from his enemies. Asa told the people of Judah, let us build towns and fortify them with walls, towers, gates, and bars. The land is still ours because we sought the Lord our God, and he has given us peace on every side. So they went ahead with those projects and brought them to completion. King Asa had an army of 300,000 warriors from the tribe of Judah, armed with large shields and spears, and he also had an army of 280,000 warriors from the tribe of Benjamin, armed with small shields and bows. Both armies were composed of well-trained fighting men. Alright, so he takes all this stuff apart, rips it down, smashes it, destroys it everywhere he can. And as a consequence, he gets peace. He gets peace for like 35 years. That's almost as long as David was king for. David was king for 40 years. Solomon was king for 40 years. He gets peace for 35 of his years. And he rules for, I think, like 52 years. Maybe it was 53. I forget.
89.
It's not no, he didn't, I don't think he even lived to 89. So for most of his time as king, he gets peace. And it's purely because he did the right thing. He looked for evil and he stamped it out. And as a king, that's your responsibility. And he gets a huge fat army, which is great. But then something happens. Something happens. Verse 9. Once an Ethiopian named Zerah attacked Judah with an army of 1 million men.
$1 million.
1 million! And 300 chariots. They advanced to the town of Marishah. So Asa, that Marishah is on the map too, I think. There it is. Jerusalem's right up here. And yeah, I mean, on the bigger map, let's look at this. This is the general area where the people lived, the Ethiopians and the Cushites. They made it all the way up to here. This square is this whole map right here. This whole bigger map is that little square. So they went all the way here and they got stopped just this far from the capital, which is not very far when you consider how far they've come to get there. They're pretty darn close to the capital at this point. So they advanced to the town of Marishah, verse 10. So Asa deployed his armies for the battle in the valley north of Marishah. And then Asa cried out to the Lord his God, which is the right thing to do in this circumstance. O Lord, no one but you can help the powerless against the mighty. Help us, O Lord, our God, for we trust in you alone. It is in your name that we have come against this vast horde. O Lord, you are our God. Do not let mere men prevail against you. So the Lord defeated the Ethiopians in the presence of Asa and the army of Judah. And the enemy fled. Asa and his army pursued them as far as Gerar, and so many Ethiopians fell that they were unable to rally. They were destroyed by the Lord and his army, and the army of Judah carried off a vast amount of plunder. While they were at Gerar, they attacked all the towns in that area. The terror from the Lord came upon the people there. And as a result, a vast amount of plunder was taken from these towns too. They also attacked the camps of herdsmen and captured many sheep, goats, and camels before finally returning to Jerusalem. Because, oh wait, did I just turn a page erroneously? What just happened there? Yeah, I did. Yeah, anyways. So when an army travels, I don't know if you guys are familiar, they have to take stuff with them. Right? This travel would be over a week of travel. Several weeks, most likely. So to do that with 1 million guys, you need food per person for several weeks times 1 million.
What?
Does that make sense? Like if you eat 3 meals a day and then we take you on a 2-week trip, that's 7 plus 7 times 3. What's 14 times 3?
42.
6.
Oh my gosh, I was gonna answer that. Alan,
So
get out of here. I'm sorry.
42 meals per person. That's easy math. That's 42 million meals.
I love multiplication.
Think about that. Well, there's a compounding problem that armies have to figure out, and it's interesting. You get 1 million soldiers who need 42 meals. Now you need enough cooks to cook 42 million meals over the course of 2 weeks. That's enough cooks to cook 1 million plates every day at every mealtime, right? Think about that. You need enough cooks to cook 1 million dishes. Now you need food for your army of cooks.
Yeah, 100,000.
Okay, now we have a new problem. You have all this food for the 1 million guys and all this food for your cooks for 1 million guys. Your food's gonna go bad. That's too much food. Also, you need someone to transport all that food. So now you need a transport crew to transport all the food.
more men.
You know what would be better? It'd be better if the food could transport itself.
Oh,
Yeah.
So you just take live animals, and the live animals walk with the army and the cooks, And then every time you go to cook, you just butcher
They don't even
up
know
some
where
fresh
they're gonna
meat.
be going.
That's a lot of input.
But now you need shepherds!
And that means
And if you don't have shepherds, the flocks are just gonna wander off. So now you have to feed the shepherds.
But you also have to feed the animals.
Okay, so what's happening here?
Oh my goodness.
When the king of Ethiopia, Zerah, he takes his 1,000,000-man army up here, he's probably taking, close to 2 million foot-owning things with him. I don't know which quantity of which it is, how many are cooks, how many are shepherds, how many are sheep, how many are cows, but there's probably like 2 million living things with feet going there, and 1 million of them are soldiers.
Wait, what is?
Do you follow? Like, this is an insane endeavor, and he must be really confident that he's gonna win. And when they get there, they're so utterly defeated. There's a line in here, I don't know if you guys caught it, when it talks about them being defeated. They were destroyed by the Lord and his army. And the army of Judah carried off a vast amount of plunder. I love that sentence. Did you catch the two halves of the sentence? It's indicative because the second half, that the first half does not mention anybody from the second half. Okay, let me read it one more time, see if you follow this. The first half can't be thinking or talking about anyone in the second half because of how the second half is worded. They were destroyed, that's the Ethiopians, they were destroyed by the Lord and his army, and the army of Judah carried off a vast amount of plunder. Did you get it?
Yeah.
Okay, so you might read that the first time and think that the Lord's army is Asa's army, the king of Judah. You might think that on first glance, but if you really look at the sentence, it says the Lord and his army did this, and Judah's army did this. Two separate acts that were unrelated. One act is destroying the Ethiopians. One act is gathering up the plunder. Do you get it? The Lord and the Lord's army destroyed the Ethiopians. Asa and Asa's army gathered up the plunder. Okay, so I want you to picture this. You're there, you're outmanned. They have almost double the army you have. Almost double. Now your army doesn't need a mobile everything supply that lasts 2 weeks because your army is only like a day's walk from their own house. So you need some supplies, but you don't need that many supplies.
We need enough for
But then you're facing off against an army and it's almost twice the size of yours. And behind them a few towns is their support crew.
of almost another
million living things. I don't know what the breakup is, but yeah, you're getting close between cows and sheep and shepherds and cooks. Okay. You go to face them, and for some reason, they are just dying. Faster than you can kill them, they're dying. And they start to retreat because they're starting to notice. We're dying at a very strange pace.
You're just
So they all turn around and run back, and as they run back, there's all the support crew. You getting it? So here's the start of the fight, here's the support crew. They start running back, and the support crew's like, hey guys, welcome home, why are you running? They didn't get any notice. They didn't get any advance warning that we're losing, we should get out of here. So they're just all sitting there, cooking up the next sheep, getting ready for the army to return in victory, they're hoping. And what they get instead is a piece, a fraction of the original army, running scared through the camp. And all the cooks are like, what? And then Asa's army arrives. So God's army does the battle, and then Asa's army walks into the camp of cooks and sheep and cows and goes, sweet. And that was their role in this fight. They showed up, they prayed, and they got to take home the food. What a fight! I want to be in God's army. Do you guys know what happens at the end of days, at the very end of the Bible? There's two big fights. Do you know them?
God's gonna beat Satan, and he's gonna be like, and he's gonna use those nunchuck thingies, those little knives that kind of the holy
A knife chuck?
Butterfly knife?
Yeah, those the things that fling those knives.
At the hardware store yesterday, I had so much self-control and willpower, I almost bought it. There was a Balsam pull saw.
What's that?
So the original name for a butterfly knife in its original language is balsam, and they had a pole saw that's used for cutting wood and carpentry, but the handle was a hinged and geared so that they would always hinge at the same speed. Folds around the pole saw blade and encloses it so the teeth can't get broken off. And I was so strong. You'd be so proud of me. I almost got it, man. Because you flip the lock and you hold one handle and you go whoosh, and the saw pops out.
Sounds like a level.
Oh, it's like a sword or something. It was so cool, and I didn't buy it. It was like $35.
Oh my god.
That's cheap.
I needed a dovetail saw. It's like this little one. It's like that big.
You could get a dovetail saw.
And it was like
and
$15.
that. Let's go buy it and make Daniel.
I
Technically,
didn't
would
need
have
the big. I have like 3 of the big one on.
You would have been saving money though.
I already have 3 of the big ones.
It was so cool. It was so. I'll wait till mine breaks. We'll see how long that takes. But
Just back it on a tree.
yeah, I tried to cut PVC with my dovetail saw. And, I didn't notice till I was making my second cut that all of the teeth were gone. They were just gone. There were some strange noises during the first cut. I didn't know what the noises were. It was just the teeth going. Bing, 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 bing.
And none of them like hit you or anything? And, like,
No, PVC's pretty soft. They weren't like flying off at bullet speeds or anything. You know. All right, so God wins this war, and the reason he wins this war for them is because of what Asa did leading up to this point and what Judah did in response. He commanded Judah to go back to worshiping God, and he tore down all the altars. And so when Ethiopia shows up, God wins the battle. And so this is my favorite part. He got 35 years of peace, and when the peace ended, it wasn't a punishment.
It's victory.
It was a victory. Isn't that so beautiful? I love that, because there's so many times in life where God throws you a curveball of one sort or another, and we think, like, I must have messed up. I must be a horrible person. I can't believe God is disowning me. I can't believe God is punishing me. Now, sometimes God will discipline you because you did something wrong. But if you find yourself in that place of like lament and woe, and you just can't figure out what you did wrong, maybe that's not what that is. I would say generally, and it's not always the case, but generally when God disciplines you, you know what you did. Generally. There might be some exceptions there, but generally you're already feeling guilty about it and you're trying to hide it. And that's when he disciplines you. But look at this situation. Asa could have asked. He could have done like his is his dad? No, his grandpa. He could have done like his grandpa. His grandpa, when someone came to attack, went, "You're right, we're evil sinners, God, we deserve this. Please punish us, we deserve this." Asa could have done that, but then that would have been a lie. Asa knew he'd actually been obeying God. He'd actually been doing the right thing. And so when he sees the enemy, he doesn't panic. He doesn't lament and go, "God, why do you hate us?" Ah. He just says, "God, help us. You're the only one who can save us." And then God does. God totally shows up. And he gets like free food for days. Like, this is a lot of free food. Tons of plunder.
Like,
All right, so then...
several feasts after that.
Oh, I'm sure. Several. Yeah, this is gonna be enough food to get them through the battle and home again.
What do you do to
Right?
the cooks?
What do you do with the cooks?
So what do you do to them?
That's a great question. I don't know the answer to.
I think he left them to be all by
And to the
themselves.
chefs.
And to the chefs.
Wow.
He hired them!
Let me tell you.
Maybe he ate them too.
No, that's probably the only option I feel confident in saying did not happen for sure. It's like the absolute no option. All right, so now we get into verses 1 through 8 of the next chapter, chapter 15. Then the Spirit of God came upon Azariah, son of Oded. Now, Azariah is a lesser-known prophet. He's not super famous like an Elijah or an Isaiah or a Daniel. But he was a prophet. He's just not super duper famous. Didn't write any books. That, survived. But he was around. He was a guy who listened to God and spoke for God. Okay, so Azariah, son of Oded, he gets this message. The Spirit of the Lord comes upon him. Verse 2, and when he went out to meet King Asa, as he was returning from the battle, "Listen to me, Asa," he shouted. "Listen, all you people of Judah and Benjamin. The Lord will stay with you as long as you will stay with him. Whenever you seek him, you will find him. But if you abandon him, he will abandon you." So after this victory moment, after this, we call out to the Lord and he answers. The prophet Lord stops them in their tracks, quite literally,
and yells at them. And says, if you cry out to the Lord, he'll answer you.
That's kind
Oh,
of
okay. That's...
I think
Yeah, I know. He did that, actually. Just now. It's a funny thing you should mention it. We got all this free food because that's what happened. We called out to the Lord and he answered. And he's like, yeah, but if you abandon him, he'll abandon you. Oh, I see. So we shouldn't take this for granted. We shouldn't just assume that, like, we'll always win battles this way. We actually have to stay in connection with him. Interesting. He's not done yet, though.
More yelling.
For a long, yeah, more yelling. As far as I can tell, there's a lot more explanation points throughout this little message than most. Verse 3, for a long time, Israel was without the true God, without a priest to teach them, and without the law to instruct them. And whenever they were in trouble and turned to the Lord, the God of Israel, and sought him out, they found him. During those dark times, it was not safe to travel. Problems troubled the people of every land. Nation fought against nation and city against city, for God was troubling them with every kind of problem. But as for you, be strong and courageous, for your work will be rewarded. And when Asa heard this message from Azariah the prophet, he took courage and removed all the detestable idols from the land of Judah and Benjamin, and in the towns he had captured in the hill country of Ephraim. And he repaired the altar of the Lord, which stood in front of the entry room of the Lord's temple. That is a critical sentence, because we haven't had any details about that up till now. I don't know if you guys remember, but there was a moment with his grandpa, the king, Rehoboam, right after King Solomon, the first king where the country split up. And God sends a nation to attack them, and he says, we deserve it. They break down crying, and God says, I will stop short of destroying you completely. I will not destroy you all the way. But he allowed a lot of destruction up to a certain point, and part of that destruction was in the capital, and it included the temple. And so the temple got hurt. And we haven't really seen it in Chronicles yet, but apparently it's just stayed that way. The priests are still there, the priests are still trying to do their job, but the altar of the Lord is a bit like rubble. It's a bit messed up.
Why don't they just like try to fix it?
Well, it was like holy and special. It was an antique. It was custom made. You know,
So like Mecca.
you needed like a real craftsman if you're going to try and put it back to the way it was. You need an artisan who knows how to not just weld some metal together, but knows how to sculpt in metal. It was a tricky thing, and so they don't explain all the details. But essentially, we know that Rehoboam, he got to watch it destroyed. He didn't fix it, and then this guy's dad, Abijah, he didn't fix it. And now Asa, he's been at peace for 35 years, and before that he was co-ruling for 11 years. Do the math. It's 46 years he was king or co-king, and he didn't fix it this whole time. So he's been pleasing to the Lord in certain ways, but there's a thing he's never done that he could have done this whole time. It's in the capital. This is where he works every day. It's right down the street from his palace. And it's just sitting there all messed up. Now, I don't actually know what kind of messed up. Sorry. Maybe they stripped all the metal off and left the wood. Maybe they bent it in half. Maybe they tried to light it on fire. It's, it's an altar. It was meant to be lit on fire, so I don't know. I don't know. Maybe they just ripped all the nails out and let it fall into pieces. I have no idea what kind of destroyed it was.
Maybe they took all the gold.
Well, it was bronze, but yeah. There was gold, just not on the altar. Just the altar specifically. Because gold has a lower melting temperature. And if you make stuff out of gold and then light it on fire, the gold tends to soften. And then if you put whole cows on top of it for the barbecue, right? The whole barbecue would kind of... Not so much a barbecue as like a hammock.
Maybe the gold is good when it's...
Is there an end to that sentence?
Maybe the gold is good.
What?
Why is Micah wrapped like that? Don't ask.
Don't judge people.
Gone. cultural appropriation. She's right.
Do I ever judge you?
Victoria, for once I agree with them. Don't judge people.
That was so
I've never judged you, Victoria.
Bro has called me black so many times.
Yeah, Micah, I'm sorry. No one believes that.
Call me fat.
Okay, so in any case, he repaired it. It's back to normal. And this is a huge deal because he's been calling everyone to worship the Lord in the proper ways for 42 years. No, 46. 46 years.
No.
And yet the altar's been busted this whole time? That's a pretty big oversight. Yeah.
Well, what if he was just like, yeah, I'll do it tomorrow? Like,
I think the only hint we have as to why he didn't do it was that it said after the message from the prophet, he took courage. And then he went and did it. So there's something about fixing the Lord's altar that scared him.
yeah.
And I can't explain that. I could guess, but I don't know for sure. I'm thinking it's that kind of thing where like if you touch the Ark of the Covenant, you die. That concept of holy things are so holy you shouldn't mess with them. Maybe he thinks the altar shouldn't get fixed by anyone unless God says go do it. Maybe? And I am guessing. I don't really know that part for sure.
Let's all
But it
believe
says he took courage and then he fixed the altar. It's got to be something to do with fear. All right, then we get to verse 9.
Maybe he was really lazy.
Then we get to verse 9. There's actually 3 separate pieces to this part of the story. Then Asa called together all the people of Judah and Benjamin, along with the people of Ephraim, Manasseh, and Simeon, who had settled among them. Okay, now this is another interesting detail. During his reign, where they're at peace, the people in the north have been going through, I'm going to jump back to the timeline, a bunch of kings. Do you see, like if we draw a straight line up here, how many kings they've been through just while Asa's been on the throne? Asa overlapped with their first king, Jeroboam. Does that make sense? Like, he was king when Jeroboam was king. Jeroboam tried to raise up this other guy. This is Nadab. And Nadab dies like when Jeroboam dies. So that doesn't even work. Then Baasha's king. Baasha tries to raise up Elah. They only rule separately for like a year. Elah dies like a year after Baasha. I forget this guy's name, but then there's Omri. Like all of these are overlapped with Asa. So the north is just going through tumult. It is a bad time up there. And it's so bad that the parts of the north that are on the border of the south, they just moved to the south. They're like, this Asa's guy is like legit. I don't want to live in Canada anymore. I'm moving to the States. They just go down south of the border. They just go south of the border and move in. So now there's all these people from Ephraim and Manasseh, which are two of the northern tribes. They're two of the big northern tribes. And they just live in Judah. They live in Benjamin. They're like, we're out. We're not doing this anymore. The Levites already left the north. The Levites are all living down in Judah too. So you've got Judah, Benjamin. Simeon's been living in Judah the whole time. Simeon never didn't live in Judah. So you got Simeon, Benjamin, Judah, Levi, Ephraim, and Manasseh. That's 6 out of 12 tribes living in, well, 2 of them are partials, but 6 out of 12 tribes now live in the south where there's land for 2 tribes. That's bonkers. And it's because he's such a good king, everyone just wants to live there. No one wants to live up north with the bad king after 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 bad king. No one wants that. It's garbage.
I don't think I like that.
Yeah, why? I don't get
I
it.
just don't think I like it.
You know what, Micah? You have
Biden should be on that list.
We're talking about Israel. We're talking about 3,000 years ago.
We're talking about the politics of Israel. That's still.
3,000 years ago. No one was even named Biden back then, okay?
How do we
Yes, they
know?
were.
How do you know?
How do you know?
How do you know?
Read the
How do you
Bible.
know?
There.
What if it doesn't make you traitor?
Shh. Hebrew names don't work like that. You have to make them out of Hebrew syllables.
Well, maybe someone maybe someone who's homeless and didn't know how to make names.
Yeah, bidden.
Can we end this 15 minutes?
We're getting there. We're getting there. All right, so
Oh.
Let's make it 3.
All right, so they moved to from Israel, and they moved to Judah during Asa's reign, when they saw the Lord his God was with him. The people gathered to Jerusalem in late spring during the 15th year of Asa's reign. On that day, they sacrificed to the Lord 700 cattle and 7,000 sheep and goats from the plunder they had taken in the battle. Then they entered into a covenant to seek the Lord, the God of their ancestors, with all their heart and soul. They agreed that anyone who refused to seek the Lord, the God of Israel, would be put to death. Whether young or old, man or woman, they shouted out their oath of loyalty to the Lord with trumpets blaring and ram's horns sounding, and all in Judah were happy about this covenant, for they had entered into it with all their heart. They earnestly sought after God, and they found him. And the Lord gave them rest from their enemies on every side. All right. What?
Why are we not finishing? Never mind. Oh yeah, that makes sense.
What was the thing that they agreed to? Remind me? They all agreed on something. We're all going to do this. What did they agree on?
Worship the Lord.
Oh, more than that. Yeah, that was the that's the prerequisite.
Oh.
You got to agree on that first, but then they made a secondary agreement.
That they would
Kill everyone.
They would kill everyone
Kill everyone.
who didn't. They would kill everyone who didn't.
I think that's against the Lord.
Okay, step one. Step one. We're all on God's side. Step two, if anyone's not on God's side, we kill them. Here's the funny thing about that. This is a hilarious little double-edged sword here. Okay, so if A is true, you never have to act on B. Right? Right? If A is true, if we actually all worship God, we never have to do B. That never has to happen. Likewise, if we're faithful to carry out B, A ends up being true.
I don't understand.
If you kill everyone who doesn't worship God, then of everyone living, you can honestly say we all worship God.
Oh my God.
And if we all worship God, we never have to kill anyone.
That's crazy.
So now the question is, which one was truer?
Truer is not a
I think the one
Yes,
that
it is.
never exists.
Which one was true first?
Probably not. They kill everyone. Well, the
Kill
thing is though,
everyone.
if you kill everyone and then everyone's Christians, and then more people are brought into the world, and then what if their babies don't believe in Jesus?
The child comes out. Do you believe in God? Get it out
He
of
didn't say yes.
Kill more people.
Okay, so
Stop touching
that is actually how this shakes
dogs.
out. If you live through this, not this little point in the story, this is one day in the
He's
grand
fake, though.
scheme. But if you actually walk
Bad
through
news.
this, you start to see how this would work. This means that at that point in time, on that day, the whole country of Judah and Benjamin, which now housed 6 different tribes, the whole place was in agreement that we're going to worship God and God alone. No one else. So no one needed to die that day. That day was a day of celebration. That day was a party. Okay? They were sacrificing to the Lord. They were feasting. It was a great day. They're blowing trumpets, playing music all over the place. However, it was a commitment that from this point on, we take this deadly seriously. From this point on, if someone tries to move in and they're not going to worship the Lord, they have to leave or die. From this point on, if someone grows up here and they do not want to worship the Lord, they have to leave or die. That was the commitment they were signing up for.
Why do they have to defect?
This is not an easy thing. This is not a thing that God says, hey, you guys have to do this.
They just did that.
They just
How'd
did
you do that in that kind of way?
It's just like junior high.
So when they make this commitment, this is a commitment to say, we enjoy the benefits, we think God's worthy of all this, and so we're going to make this official. You have to be on board or you've got to get out. Yeah, Hammond.
Didn't he kind of tell them to do that though, like when he was originally setting up the
Yes, I don't know if they even know about it, but I know the authors of Chronicles know about it. So I was going to get there next. But yes, there is an original command when the country is first set up that you should not let a foreigner move in. You should not marry a foreigner. And then there's this second command later on down the line that says, hey, any foreigner that wants to become a worshiper of God and like actually follow all the commands and all the laws and be like truly Jewish in every sense, let him in, bring him into the family. They're one of you now. And so he says like these two things that almost seem like they're paradox statements, you know, like you're not allowed to marry a foreigner, you're not allowed to let a foreigner into your country. But if any foreigner comes and wants to actually worship God, let them join you and be one of you. It's like,
I think those cross the wrong direction.
but what they add up to is you can't let people move in who worship other gods. You have to keep them out. If anyone wants to fully join the country, that's great. But they have to join in all ways. They can't just live here and worship some other god. That's not allowed.
They're not allowed to be freeloaders.
Well, but in this case, spiritual freeloaders. Like, they can't come in with a fake God and then enjoy the blessings that God's pouring out on the nation. He says, no, that's not going to work. I'm going to bless your nation, but it's because your nation is going to be pure, and it's going to be only devoted to me. That's when you'll get the blessing. So you've actually got to weed out anyone who doesn't worship the real God. They've made up some fake thing. The other reason for that is not just because God's picky and jealous. It's because he knows that false idols spread like disease. And if you let in one and everyone else worships the real God today, in a month or a year, there's going to be more than one worshiping that fake God. And so that's the main reason he says you've got to keep it out. You've got to be holy in this way. And so Judah signs up for this. Now, it doesn't mention them reading the Old Text where God originally asked for this. I don't know if they've completely forgotten or not, but we read of later kings finding the old books written by Moses all of a sudden, and no one's read them in a while. And I don't know how long that while is. That's the trick here with Asa. I don't know.
That while is probably about 100,000 years.
Not 100,000, no.
Buddy, yeah.
It wasn't 100,000 from when they were written. They were only written like a few hundred before. So
Exactly from when they were written.
no. Okay, so the books of Moses were written around 1440 BC, just like somewhere generally around 1440 BC. This is all taking place in the early 900s, so it'd be like
A couple thousand years.
it's like 500
Driving Daniel insane right now. Stop.
It's really close to 500 years.
It's negative 10 years.
Okay,
10 years.
anyways, so David clearly got to read those things. So it wasn't like they were lost right when Moses wrote them. Okay, David clearly got to read them. Solomon got to read them. This is only 3 generations down from Solomon, so maybe Asa has them.
No.
Maybe, but I don't know for sure. So the fact they don't mention them kind of makes me think he didn't read them and they just came to this on their own. But anyways, it's a thing that God asked for previously. Everyone's happy about it today during the party. Verse 16, King Asa even deposed his grandmother Maacah from her position as queen mother because she had made an obscene Asherah pole. So there was actually a royal idol worship spot. And she had this like special place because she's been like queen forever. I don't know if you guys understand royalty and ancient royalty specifically, but to be queen does not necessarily mean you marry the king.
What? You'll have to be the
You could be the king's mom and still be considered the queen. There's some flexibility.
I am the queen. What are
There's
you talking
Think about it like this. It's so flexible that dad king and son king can both be called king at the same time.
Wait a second.
Right? Like in our minds, we think of like the cartoons of King Arthur's court kind of stuff. And we think like if you're the king's son, you're a prince. And then once the king dies, you can be king. But in ancient times, it's not at all how it worked. Prince was a title you gave to someone you put in charge of something. King was a title that meant you're in charge all the way. And 2 guys could share the top spot if they decided to. So 2 guys could be the king at the same time. So king and queen were very flexible terms back then. They don't follow all these made-up rules we find in our stories. They just mean the kind of authority that you have. And so yeah, there could be a queen who's not married to the king because she was married to like the past king. That's totally a thing. But he basically decides, you know what? You worship idols, you're out. You've got an Asherah pole on the backyard of the palace, like, you're done. You don't get to be queen anymore. You're absolutely out. So hers, it seems like, from the way the story's told, it doesn't give us an exact timeline, but it seems like the royal one was the last one to go. And so I like this for two reasons. Number one, eventually he did get around to some level of completeness. But two, this means God was like looking kindly towards him and blessing him in the midst of him having like this soft spot and overlooking what Makkah was doing. Does that make sense? So like, he's not a perfect man. It's not like he was 100% completionist, I'm going to get every Asherah pole. There was, for some measure of time, he was overlooking someone's evil, and it was because he was close to them. But on the whole, his heart was get rid of the evil, and so God saw that and was like, yeah, that's good enough, I'll take it. You're trying to be faithful, I'll take it. And in this back and forth between him and God, in this relationship, eventually he grows to the place where he's losing that soft spot. He's losing that place where he overlooks evil. And so rather than him being like a 90%er and he's not perfect, and God's like, that's not perfectly holy, punishment. Instead, God works with him and he grows over time. And he becomes an even better leader. I think that's really cool because no one's born a perfect leader. No one's born perfect anything. And so if God actually required you to like, hurry up, get to the standard, you gotta be 100% or I can't use you, then he would never get to use anyone. He'd be very lonely. Yeah.
What if they were 99.9?
Yeah, okay, yeah. No, God's not waiting for that. He's looking at the heart. This is what we saw in David. David was not perfect. Everyone knows how David totally messed up. But David had a heart that went in the right direction, and God honored that and blessed him and used that. And the longer he and God were in that relationship, the more David grew. That's the story of David. And so we kind of see the same thing here with Asa. He's all fire at the start. He's all gung-ho. Let's destroy evil. Yeah! And all the while, he's like, just don't look at that evil, that one particular evil. And we can be like that sometimes. Honestly, I think usually it's us. Usually it's one of our evils. Sometimes it's that person we're close to. Sometimes. But I think more often it's just one of ours. Yeah, sin is bad. I don't like sin. I gotta stop hanging out with that friend. They sin all the time. And all the while there's like our sin. And we're just like, don't look at mine. And we just kind of pretend it's not there. And the beautiful thing is, God doesn't just like shun you, kick you to the curb. You're out of here. I hate you. How dare you keep hold of your one last sin? God accepts you for your faith, and he works on you because he does want to see it gone. And don't get the wrong idea. It's not like he just loves you. He doesn't care if you sin. But he accepts you even when you're in the halfway state. He accepts you even when you're in the 75% state. And he wants to grow you the whole time. He wants to keep pushing you forward. So Asa wakes up to that, fixes that problem. Verse 17. Although the pagan shrines were not removed from Israel, that would be the north, Asa's heart remained completely faithful throughout his life. He brought into the temple of God the silver and gold and the various items that he and his father had dedicated. And so there was no more war until the 35th year of Asa's reign. All right, so he didn't have enough courage or manpower or wisdom to go all the way into Israel and destroy all the altars in Israel. Guys, can we stop that, please? Thank you. And it's interesting that this gets called out because he wasn't king of Israel. He was king of Judah. That's the southern kingdom. He wasn't king of the north. But the chroniclers, the guys who write this, they call out that he didn't go into the north. Why do they do that? That wasn't even his kingdom. Why is it his job to go up there and clean out the idols?
He was wholly committed.
Sure. It's because it would have been right. This is a really weird concept. I know it's hard to grasp, but the nation of Israel originally encapsulated both the southern and the northern kingdoms. And the whole nation of Israel originally made a covenant with God that we're not going to worship any other gods. So the whole nation, north and south, were all inside of that contract. They were required to not worship any false gods, any made-up gods. And while the northern kingdom was breaking that promise, they were going against God. And if you want to call yourself God's servant, God's king, commander of God's army, you want to put your name under one of those titles, you would actually need to go and do the things that God would want done. Not just the things a good king would do, but you would need to do what a servant of God would do. And the cross section for Asa means, according to the chronicler, the fullest good he could have performed was to take back the northern kingdom and teach them to worship God again, which would involve destroying all the idols that were up there. That would be involved. And this is a wild thought because God gave them peace. God got their enemies to all sit back and leave them alone. And the chronicler is saying, but the one thing he didn't do was go start up another civil war. He should have started up a civil war. Like, what? Well, yeah, when it's this righteous, when it's this good, the result of the fight, then the fight's worth it. It's not a fight because we hate those guys. It's not a fight because, those guys have to die. They're bad. It was meant to be go and retake the lost half of our family and stitch this thing back together again and get rid of the cancer that's been growing up there in that family. That would have been the Civil War. And, yeah, it would have been an awful thing to be in the middle of it, but let me remind you of the timeline real quick. Since no southern king did this, no southern king went up to the north and took it back and got them to worship God again, during this little patch of good kings between Asa and Jehoshaphat. And none of the other good kings, Jotham didn't do it, Hezekiah didn't do it, Josiah didn't do it. Well, actually, Josiah never had a chance. We'll get to that. Because they didn't, this happened. Because the good kings down here wouldn't get up and fight the bad kings up here, this happened. This Assyrian conquest, you could retitle that little explosion symbol there, Death of the North. So yeah, Civil War is bad. Civil War is a horrible thing. Don't get me wrong. It would not have been fun, would not have been pretty. But it would have saved the nation as a whole. Do you see how big the consequences here are if you don't act? If you as king, if you as the person in charge don't see the evil and attack it, stamp it out, get rid of it, the evil wins. That's the consequence. And it's worse. The fight to get rid of evil is never pretty, but it's always better than when evil wins. It's always better than when evil wins. And so the North needed to stop and seek God. And it doesn't matter when. It could have been right after the first bad king or after the 13th bad king. At any point, they could have stopped, turned back to God, repented, cried out to him, and he would have been like, I'll take you back. There was no point until right about there where they couldn't turn back. That is so sad. They spent years of their life worshiping statues. How sad and broken is that? If you guys have friends, if you guys have family that are living a life apart from God right now, I need you to understand, it's a little bit like this. There's sin, just like there's sin in your life, but the difference is it's like a full given. We've just given into it. It's in charge now. And the problem with just kind of I told them the truth once and now I don't like to talk about it because it's really awkward around Thanksgiving if I bring up the gospel, is eventually it ends with the sin winning. Like the evil wins. That's the ending. And it's not good. And at any point they could cry out to God. It could be today, it could be tomorrow, it could be a year from now, it could be 10 years from now. But it only will happen if someone who's connected to God is willing to start the civil war. is willing to go to the person and say, I will risk my relationship with you to bring you the truth one more time. I will risk my relationship with you to let you know how God feels. To hand that to you. And if you don't want to talk to me anymore, then I understand. But I need you to know this. I need you to hear this. You have to turn back to him. All right, so in conclusion. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, I put one at the end because I knew I wanted to go back to it. How silly is that?
Bye. Bye. Oh.
There is an ancient promise in Deuteronomy where some of these original commands and covenants come from. And it gets reprised in this text right here, and it gets reprised in Jeremiah. And it's this, it's almost a quote every time. It comes up like 4 times in Scripture, once in Matthew as well. But from there you will search again for the Lord your God, and if you search for him with all your heart and soul, you will find him.
I feel like I've seen like some sort of like other version of this.
It's in the Bible 4 times, and it's slightly different every time.
Okay.
Yeah. So you've got it in Deuteronomy, you've got it here in 2 Chronicles, you've got it in Jeremiah, and you've got it in Matthew. And what's so beautiful about it is when it comes up the first time is Deuteronomy. And when it comes up in Deuteronomy, it's talking about specifically, and this is so weird, okay? I have to like cut that out or something. It's written, if we're doing to scale timeline, it's written about there. 500 years before.
The blue thingy?
Yeah, like way back there.
I didn't know.
And in the chapter, you can go read the chapter. It's talking about this period of time. It's talking about being taken captive to Babylon. It literally says in Deuteronomy, before they even have kings or a kingdom, before they even have the land, Moses writes, hey, once you guys are a kingdom and you mess up, God will punish you and take you out of your kingdom. You're going to lose your land. But, and that's where the from there in the verse comes from. From there, from Babylon, from captivity, from you've been taken out of your land, you'll search for the Lord your God. And if you search for him with all your heart and soul, you'll find him.
Why do you use that picture every time?
The picture of the temple?
Because of the
Because 2
temple.
Chronicles centers around
Okay.
the temple.
Like.
When do you wear those shoes?
Okay.
I have them every time.
Why do you have that?
They say it again here because 2 Chronicles is written right after they get back. So it's written in Deuteronomy several hundred years before they have a kingdom. Several more hundred years before they get taken to captivity. And it says, when you're in captivity and you call out to me, I'll take you back. And then in Chronicles, writing about the time when they had a kingdom, after the time they've been kidnapped and let go, they bring it up again, that when you cry out to the Lord, when you seek him, you'll find him. And the next time it's brought up is in Matthew, and it's coming from Jesus. And Jesus says, yeah, if you seek earnestly with your whole heart, you're going to find him. And it's so beautiful because it starts as you're going to be far from me spiritually and physically in some distant country. And if you seek me, you'll find me. As in, you'll actually get to come back to my house, to Jerusalem. And then it comes true. And then they write it down in the book as it came true, that it would come true. And then Jesus pulls it out again, but they're already in Jerusalem. They're like right next to the temple when he says it. He says, yeah, if you seek the Lord, then you'll find him. We're like, aren't we like Jews? Don't we already know God? He's like, no. You haven't really been seeking him.
Silly goose.
Thank you for that. That's very helpful. You have to seek him. And if you seek him, then you'll find him. And Christ sets up the church in this way, that the church is open to everyone, but first you have to seek him. It's open to everyone. So go to those people you know that don't have the Lord. Seek after them like they are a long-lost brother, a long-lost chunk of the family. Go after them like they need to be reunified with Christ because they're dying without him. Because that's all true. We just have to actually think about it that way sometimes. We don't always remind ourselves of the deeper spiritual truth when we meet up with people. And let them know. It doesn't require you to be at 100%. Doesn't even require you to be at 50%. You don't have to clean up and become perfect before you come to the Lord. You first come to the Lord, and then he helps you clean up. But first, you have to get there. You have to actually seek him and find him. Cleanup comes later. But first, seek him, find him. All right, let's pray. Lord, help us to seek after those people that don't have you, that don't know you. And Lord, may we go to them with that fervor, that courage that King Asa had. May we bring them not just a bit of your gospel, Lord, but the whole gospel, even if it does mess with our relationship. Even if it does cost us something. We have to make some kind of sacrifice. And Lord, work in our hearts this week. Help us to be willing to sacrifice for you. Whether it's a personal sin or something that just takes up too much of our time, or a lifestyle we need to give up. Whatever it is, God, just give us that same courage Asa had to say, where I see evil, I'll stamp it out. And Lord, as we grow, as we get older and we gain responsibility and authority, help us to be a leader like Asa was. One who's not only willing to do the right thing personally, but then tell everyone else, you've got to do the right thing too. With our heads bowed, with our eyes closed, if you're that distant family who doesn't have the Lord this morning, if you're the one that's far from him, and you want to be close right now, the Bible tells us that Jesus died in your place, in my place, to make that possible so you could become part of his family. He died taking the punishment we deserve. And he's beaten death. And now, if you put your faith in him, he'll forgive you. He'll wipe all that away. He'll wipe all of that away. He'll cleanse you. So if you need that this morning, just raise up your hand and I'll pray with you. I'll help you out with the words, but you can talk to him and ask for his forgiveness, put your faith in him, become one of his kids. Just join that family of God. So if that's you today, just raise up your hand. We thank you, Lord, for these middle schoolers. Give them courage as they go today. Help them to reach those people that maybe they're the only person that can. We pray that in your name. Amen.
Hey guys, look, we only went 41 minutes over.
No, 11 minutes.
41.
Well,
Yep.
11.
Well,
I swear
41.
All right, so we have a cook-off coming up to raise funds for summer camp. If you would like a discount on summer camp, go to CCChico.com/
Already coming back up.
the fundraiser happens first, then we start talking about camp afterwards. And that's weird, that's how it works. So if you want to work at the
It was only
cook-off,
like 1 month ago.
no.
Oh wait.
If you want to work at the cook-off, go to CCChico.com/worker.
Cook off, I'm totally doing
Worker.
That was so much fun.
Look at you. What a good boy.
April 5th.
Alan, you remember the
April 5th is the cook-off.
you have the coffee?
A cook-off is a competitive catering event.
Yeah.
Everyone who enters brings 100 plates, tiny little plates
Oh my
of their
gosh, it
dish.
was the greatest thing
And then
ever.
everyone can buy food. It's like $2 a plate. And you just get little tickets and you go around, and whatever gets eaten the most, the fastest, is the winning dish. And we have different categories and different prizes for cooks.
This is why
And if you
nobody
work
else
the
ever
event,
wins.
you help out with the tickets and the trash and all the other things you can do at the event. Then you get a share of the money that comes in applied to your camp cost.
No!
So it's like a slightly more fun fundraiser than others.
It is
And delicious. It's so delicious.
so good.
Thank you, Brad!
No, thank you, Brad. Micah, stop. I don't want to be whipped.
Actually took my
Probably should walk away with it.
We noticed after we dropped you off and got all the way checked in. But you didn't drink it? Oh, you're so good.
No, Micah, I don't want to be whipped.
Okay, well, your cup is soap on the counter. See, she's such a good sister.
I'll give you a
Eventually.
I'll call him Miguel.
Miguel.
No, not now. I gotta start turning stuff off. And Daddy's got a haircut at 1:30.
Uh-oh.
What's up?
So, where did the extra recording come from? Yeah, in the live folder there's an MP4.
That's correct. I forgot that. When I redid OBS from scratch, I told OBS to finish any recording session by making an MP4 out of the MKV
Really?
because the MP4s import into AVI DMOOCs faster than MKVs import.
But that MP4 is accurate.
Good.
But the MKV is not.
Well, isn't that fancy? I have no idea how that would be,
Oh, should I
but
use?
that's great.
Should I use the MP4?
I have no idea.
I mean, should I?
Did you live
Oh,
first service through OBS?
No.
No. Why
I
not?
already know. I already know. If I live it, it's going to be out of sync.
How out of sync?
Enough to know. You can watch it because the live feed shows the out of sync version.
But you didn't live it.
It still records the live version.
Oh, I could just watch the MKV.
Alan's going to jail today.
On OBS, I didn't stream it. I just recorded.
Right. So how would I watch to see if it was out of sync if you didn't live it?
Oh, you got to go to the live version.
What do you mean?
Oh, whether you stream or not,
Yes.
it produces a live version.
Recording, but you
Yes.
said the MP4 is accurate.
Well,
Then wouldn't the live stream have been accurate?
no,
Hey, Logan.
But we didn't test that.
I did. I looked at both versions.
You looked at the MKV. That's not the same as going live.
Okay, well then whatever.
That's what I'm getting at. It's
Oh.
not synonymous.
No jail. No jail today.
One way to go out of sync. Oh, it's not like there's one.
Yeah, I have plans.